Let me take you back, way back into time, to the time of Alexander the Great. You know, the guy who conquered half the known world before most of us could figure out how to do our own taxes. Now, there's a story about Alexander that not many people talk about. See, after years of victories, after defeating armies and claiming territories, Alexander found himself in a quiet moment, a rare thing for a guy constantly at war. One evening, he stood at the edge of the Indus River, staring at his own reflection. He had everything, a kingdom stretching from Greece to India, the loyalty of his soldiers, the fear of his enemies. But for the first time, he asked himself, what now? Because here's the thing, conquering lands was easy for him, but leading, that was something different. He had built an empire, but had he built a legacy? Had he led with purpose? Or was he just chasing victories? And that right there, that's the moment that separates conquerors from leaders. The moment where you stop asking, what's next, and start asking, why? And that, my friends, brings us to today's topic, the foundation of leadership. Because leadership isn't about what you achieve, it's about who you are while achieving it. If you don't take the time to build a strong foundation, you're just a conqueror, not a leader. And trust me, history is full of forgotten conquerors, but true leaders, their impact lasts. So let's break it down. What does it actually take to lead with purpose? Okay, so let's get things rolling. So welcome to the first episode of the Leadership Code podcast. If you're here, it means one of two things. Either you want to be a better leader, which is something that I applaud, or you got lost on your podcast app and thought this was a true crime show, which either way, I really hope you enjoy it because you're in for a treat. I'm Jose Navarro, and today we're cracking open the first and most important chapter, the foundation of leadership. Because let's be honest, most people think leadership is about having a fancy title, bossing people around. It sounds fun, but actually there's more to it. So it's not just about being able to put visionary in your LinkedIn bio, but actually real leadership, that's a whole different ballgame. So in this first segment, we'll call it Leadership is Not a Title. So have you ever had, one of those bosses who thought they were a leader just because their email signature said so? Meanwhile, I think we've also had experiences where we've had people with no title, but they were true leaders. And this is because it's all about how you show up, how you inspire, and whether people actually want to follow you. And to be honest, if nobody wants to follow you, well, congratulations, you're just a person standing in front of a group looking confused. So what's the secret sauce? A lot of people ask the question, what does it take to become a leader? What are those secret ingredients? What do I have to do to become one? And there isn't magic to it. It's mainly all about you. Your self-awareness, your authenticity, your purpose. Because if you do not know how you are or what you stand for, then, how the heck are you supposed to lead anyone else? So, getting into the whole leadership code and understanding the foundations of it, we're going to look into Nelson Mandela, the man, the myth, the master class in leadership. So, probably a lot of you already know about him, but I'm going to take part of his example and connect it to this topic. So imagine spending 27 years in prison. Dang, just by saying it, it's scary. 27 years. Some of you probably get restless after a long meeting, and kind of like, I want to get out of here, right? But can you imagine being 27 years locked away in a very tiny cell in Robben Island, forced to do hard labor, barely seeing your family, while the world outside is burning with injustice? And that was the case for Nelson Mandela. That was his reality. South Africa at the time was ruled by apartheid, a brutal system that segregated people based on race. Now, black South Africans, who made up the majority, were treated like second-class citizens. No real rights, no fair opportunities, just systemic oppression at every single level. Now, Mandela wasn't having it. He fought against apartheid. I always have a hard time saying this word. With apartheid, got arrested for it, and spent nearly 3 decades behind bars. Now, a lot of people in his position would have come out bitter, angry, and ready for revenge. But in reality, that is not leadership. Instead, Mandela came out focused, wise, and ready to unite a divided country. When apartheid finally ended, South Africa held its first democratic election, and he became the first black president. But instead of punishing those who had oppressed his people, he chose reconciliation. He built bridges, not walls. And that's what made him a true leader. So, bringing this to the topic, what can we learn from this? So, the lesson here is simple. Great leaders aren't just about making big moves or holding power. They're about who they are at their core. Leadership isn't about titles, it's about the values you stand for. So, how do you build that foundation? So let's break it down, okay? So, number 1, you have to know yourself. Just like Mandela spent years reflecting in prison, great leaders understand their own strengths, their own weaknesses, and the purpose, the why. Take a personality test if you haven't done so. I strongly recommend going to 16personalities.com. That's a really great website for you to do a self-analysis on yourself and see what your traits are. You'll learn a lot from it. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, and how you can work on them. You can also write a journal on a daily basis about your thoughts, about how you're feeling, going through your emotions, or just sit with your thoughts. Something that has helped me on a personal level is I tend to go out for walks or runs, or I tend to draw, and usually that helps for the mind to clear itself, clear ideas and ponder upon yourself, so you can do self-meditation exercises, and I find those to be the most effective. Number 2, find your purpose. You need to understand why you are doing things. Mandela's mission was clear: end apartheid, unite South Africa. So what would think about what would be your mission statement. If you don't have a purpose, you're just moving without direction. One thing I recommend is that once you know yourself and you find a clear purpose of why you want to do things, write it down. Write it on a sticky note and put it in front of your monitor, on a book, on a mirror, something that will remind you on a daily basis that that is your mission. Something that I wrote, years back while doing this exercise was, my mission was to prepare leaders or develop leaders that would become better than me. That was simply put. That's all I wrote. And to this day, I've dedicated a lot of time to cultivating a culture where we work on development programs and looking for ways to help those that want to grow, and that has been my mission statement on a daily basis. So, that's me. I strongly recommend that you write a very short mission statement, and I think that's going to get you, in long ways. So, the number 3, be authentic. Mandela didn't fake it. He led with honesty, humility, and vulnerability. And if you want trust, be real. People really connect with authenticity. Don't fake anything. I know there's a saying that goes, fake it till you make it. On this one, though, you kind of have to think it through, because it will catch on and people will eventually see you as you are. So I think it's okay for you to admit that you've made mistakes. It makes you real. It makes you human. I think it's also positive to share when you're vulnerable. You can share a story about when things didn't go the way you planned, how frustrating that was, and sharing those moments with your team, with your peers. It helps you to connect, and it helps for people to see you as another human being, as someone genuine. So I would strongly recommend you to practice more of being authentic. Number 4 is develop emotional intelligence. So leadership isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about understanding people, listening, and responding with wisdom. Now, I know it's easier said than done, but I would really encourage you to practice, active listening to your teams. On your next meeting, please put your phone away. Don't even bring it to the room. Just, let it sit at your drawer and focus entirely on the person that's on the other end. It shows respect, but it also helps you to focus on what they're saying and connect with their emotions. And this eventually helps you to provide better insight. The other person will feel heard. And that's where you start to see trust from others, right? And that builds on that leadership that you want to grow. Now, commit to lifelong learning. Mandela never stopped growing. Even in his cell, he kept reading, learning. And to be honest, if you want to lead, you cannot afford to stop learning. There are tons of books about leadership. And, just a small commercial here. I wrote my first book called The Leadership Code. And the inspiration was other books, other leaders, listening to my peers, to leaders I had and I currently have. They have been instrumental to build the person who I am today. But the cool thing is that I still feel that I need to learn more. And I think that's what makes the leadership journey such an amazing one, that it never ends, and I think that when you approach it from that manner, it makes you more humble, and it makes you eager to learn more about this fantastic calling. So listen to podcasts. So this is one that I strongly recommend, because there's going to be tons and tons and tons of more content in the episodes ahead. There are several TED Talks that you can listen to. Whatever keeps you whatever keeps you sharp, and and eager to keep learning, right? So there's just an endless amount of content out there that can help you with that. So so here's the takeaway. So leadership isn't about conquering; it's actually about building. Mandela didn't just fight against something, he fought for something bigger than himself. And I think that's the kind of foundation we all need. Now, just to close on this topic, I really hope that this episode got you thinking. If it did, please hit the follow button. If you're listening on any of the devices, either on YouTube, TikTok, or Spotify, Amazon Music, I'm trying to get my podcast on many different channels. So please hit the subscribe or follow button, and share it with someone who you believe needs to hear this. Keep it in your favorites. I would highly, highly, highly appreciate that. And let's keep the leadership conversation going. So if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have feedback, again, this is my first episode, so I would highly, strongly recommend you leaving your comments to see how I can improve. I know that I have a lot to learn on podcasting, so I would highly appreciate your comments. So until next time, lead boldly, lead wisely, and most of all, lead with purpose.